Hi, this is A Gardener's Notebook, and I am Douglas C. Welch. You know, there's a saying that when life gives you lemons, make lemonade. Well, for myself, I would much rather make limoncello. Now, if you haven't heard of limoncello is a after-dinner liqueur. It's from Italy. It's been said that in Sorrento, where they grow lots and lots of lemons, they would come to the end of the season and not want to lose all the extra lemons that they had, and so they started making this digestivo to have after meals, usually in the depth of winter, because lemons simply aren't around at that time of year. That's why it's July in Los Angeles, and we're making limoncello for a couple reasons. One, there's lots of lemons on the tree. Two, it's going to take a few months for this all to meld together, so we want to make sure we have plenty of time, so if we want to give this as Christmas gifts or simply have it at our Christmas parties, it's already ready to go. So what goes into making limoncello? Well, frankly, it's very, very simple, because all it needs is basically a big container, something like this. You do want it to have a sealed top, and I'll tell you why in just a little bit. You want, of course, lemons. These lemons were all gathered right here in my own neighborhood. Got some from friends, got some from some of my consulting clients, but we just collected up a few. 7 to 8, depends on the size. 7 or 8, 9, 10, doesn't really matter. You can also make a double batch with no problem at all. Just double everything you see. And of course, the final ingredient, at least for this is part one of limoncello making, is grain alcohol. Now, some people use vodka. I prefer to use grain alcohol. Now, this isn't the rot guts moonshine stuff you remember perhaps from your parents' past. This is about 151 proof, but I think it does a better job of extracting the essence of the lemon than a 100 proof vodka does. That said, if you're using vodka, just let it steep a little while longer. So, what do? Well, the first thing we do is we don't use the whole lemon. I have a friend who actually does, and her limoncello is slightly different, almost more like a lemonade style limoncello. But in traditional limoncellos, you use only the skin and none of the white pith underneath. Well, you might imagine, how do you get that nice fragrant skin off there? Well, there's a variety of ways you can do it. You can use the standard grater that you might have in your kitchen cabinet. You can use a bar zester, which you may have seen before, that you simply scrape and it makes the little strings of zest. You can even use a fancy microplane grater like you see the guys on the Food Network do, where they use that to get the rind off. I have realized, though, that for me, the best way of getting the rind off the lemons is simply to use a potato peeler. Your mileage may vary. Do whatever makes the most sense for yourself. Give them all a try if that's the case, and see which one does the best job. Now, the most important thing, though, when you're peeling these lemons is you don't want any of the white pith at all underneath the skin. See how the white is just peeking through the skin there? Go maybe a little bit more of that, but that's pretty much it. The trouble with that pith is it's very, very bitter, and if you end up getting that in there, it's going to end up being a very bitter limoncello and not very palatable. So you don't want to do that. So here we are. We've got all of our lemons nicely peeled. Again, just taking the rind off, and you can kind of see some of that right here. Another reason that I like the potato peeler is that it works much faster than any of the other zesters and stuff, and you end up with some larger chunks that are just simply easier to deal with. So what's our next big step? Well, recipes, I wouldn't really call this a recipe. All we do is we take our lemon peelings, we put them into our big jar here. We get that. And again, depending on the size of your lemons, depending on how much limoncello you'd like to make, anywhere between 7 and 10 lemons per one batch are probably fine. If they're particularly small, add a few more. Now, in the past, I've made this with these standard, what I call street lemons. These are standard lemons from the neighborhood or the grocery store. I've also made it with Meyer lemon. I will say it's different. It wasn't necessarily my favorite. I actually prefer just standard, ordinary. I'm sure they have a variety name, but I couldn't tell you what it is. Just the standard grocery lemons. So we put that in here. All you do is you take your grain alcohol, your vodka, whatever you might want to use. You want to use a very neutral tasting spirit, though. You wouldn't want to use a gin or a rum. I think it's going to give it kind of an odd flavor if you do that. Traditionally, in Italy, they may have used their grappa, which is this distilled, basically I call it white lightning. It's pretty nasty stuff, but they might use that, or they might use just a standard vodka. And we just add that to the bottle, to our jar here. This is a standard 750 milliliter bottle of alcohol. everything out there. The nice neat thing too is when we're done with this process, we have a nice bottle for the limoncello to go back into. So save that. You'll want to use that for storing it for your home use, or perhaps before you put it in smaller bottles to give away as gifts. Once they're in the jar, this has a nice little catch to close down on. The main reason you want to do that is alcohol, of course, will evaporate more quickly than water. So it helps to keep the alcohol in the bottle and not just let it all evaporate away. After that, give it a little shake. You'll do that same thing about once a day for the next 2 to 3 weeks. Watch the liquid. You'll begin to notice that within an hour it's going to start turning lemony yellow. Give it 2 to 3 weeks. That typically extracts nearly all of the lemony goodness out of the rinds, and then we'll be ready for the next step. The next step is very simple as well. We just simply add a simple syrup, a sugar and water syrup to this to complete it. So again, this is limoncello making part 1 for a gardener's notebook. Check back with us in, I'd say 2 to 3 weeks, and we'll give you part 2 to finish up this process, get it on your shelf so it has time to age before the holidays arrive. Again, I'm Douglas E. Welch, and this has been A Gardener's Notebook. For more information, visit douglasewelch.com/AGN. Until next time, keep digging.
Your house is an effortless one. That spring in my stride, sure get the job done. Up and out now like a bird.